Hey there, fellow city builders, Kodiak the Kodiak here, and I have some exciting news to share with all of you City Skylines fans out there. The developers of City Skylines 2 have just dropped their latest developer diary titled City Services, and let me tell you, it is a game changer. In this action-packed video, we'll be delving into the world of city services and exploring the incredible improvements and features coming in City Skylines 2. Get ready for a first look at districts and city policies, as well as a revamped budget and economy panel. These enhancements will give you even more control and customization options to shape the development of your city. But that's not all. The developers have completely reworked the groundwater mechanic, adding a new layer of realism and complexity to managing your city's resources. Prepare to tackle the challenges of water management like never before. This developer diary has left me eager to dive into the intricacies of city services and create the ultimate urban paradise. Before we jump into all these details, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and turn on notifications to join our community of passionate city builders, and you can keep updated on all these development diaries and dev insights. Don't forget to leave a comment down below sharing your thoughts and ideas on the new city services in City Skylines 2. Alright, my fellow mayors, it's time to roll up our sleeves and explore the exciting world of city services. Get ready to service your city like never before. Okay, before we get started today, just want to let you guys know that this one is big. Lots of stuff. It's probably going to be a long video. I've just started recording, so I don't know how long it's going to be, but just buckle up. There is a lot to it. I'm going to try to skip over everything that we've maybe already covered in previous dev diaries, so that way it's just efficient for your time, because otherwise this will be a 3-hour long video. That's how much is in city services. We're also going to be doing it all through YouTube today because I'm sick and tired of dealing with VLC. Okay, all right, let's go.
Successful city building.
I already want to pause because I've noticed something in this when I first started watching it this morning. There's 2 different kinds of streetlights here. Now, I know that they said with different regional styles, there will be different things, like different city services, but there's 2 different styles, unique styles of streetlights here. We have this more modern style over here, and then we have this, like, older style, obviously, right here. And I'm just not sure whether or not you can change them, if one of these is our prop, or if this is just connected to maybe the seawall here and they get this specific kind of thing. Can you change them? All things to think about. Just wanted to stop with that.
And City Skylines 2 is all about people, anticipating their needs and desires, ensuring they feel safe, and actually keeping them safe. Understanding what annoys and delights them, and doing what it takes to give them healthy, happy lives from beginning to end. How? City services. You'll build...
Okay, so we're already going to stop. We're just going to take a look at the healthcare info view, because I don't know if we've really looked at it yet. I can't remember ever looking at it, but we can see sick or injured right here, the capacity, crematorium availability, obviously Deathcare is included in this, cemetery availability as well, and then we have 4 unique healthcare buildings, and then I believe there's 2 death care buildings, and one is a crematorium and the other is a cemetery. So they still does that thing where when you place buildings, there's the link symbol. So I still wonder if you can link 2 clinics together and make like a bigger clinic. That still hasn't been answered. Still don't know why that happens, but still. And then there's all the rest of the info view over there.
Clinics and hospitals to deliver healthcare, plus the ambulance service people need in life or death situations. Oh, yeah, sometimes it will be a death situation. So you'll add
so this is the death care. This is the crematorium, and nothing else changes in the view.
Death care services that transport people to the city's crematoriums and cemeteries.
I still don't know if the cemetery is modular like some of the other buildings, like how we saw with the farm fields and like how we'll see today with the garbage dump. You can actually, it gives you like a ring radius in which you can build, and then anywhere in that ring radius, you can actually like build out your areas for whatever it is. So for the farm or for the landfill. So I don't know if the cemetery has that. I don't think it does, which is a little disappointing. I would have really liked some more modular cemetery buildings, but still very cool nonetheless.
You'll set up schools for kids.
I already want to pause again. Look at the reflections inside this building. In City Skylines 1, obviously these are nighttime like lights turning on. So it is a little different, but like even the reflections on the windows, if you look at them, they're not like the same cut and paste reflection like in City Skylines 1. It is the same cut and paste reflection on every single window on every single building. This one, even the light up ones, they're definitely different. Like you can tell that this is like looks like a classroom. This maybe looks like a dorm or an office or something. And that's totally different than what we had in City Skylines 1. So I think that's really cool.
Kids of all ages, plus colleges and universities. After all, education...
I want to pause it now. I was waiting for her to stop. Let's just go back and listen to what she just said. Like, actually listen to it.
Transport people to the city's crematoriums and cemeteries. You'll set up schools for kids of all ages, plus colleges and universities.
Notice how she specified a difference between colleges and universities. Now in America, we don't really separate the differences. Like there's obviously community colleges and then there's universities, right? But functionally, they can give you the same education at a lot of those institutions. However, in this game, we know previously that there is 4 education types. And in this video and in the dev diary, they did confirm that the 4 education types are elementary school, high school, college, and university, all as separate tiers of education. So pretty cool. There's actually going to be 2 separate things, and they explain why there's 2 separate things and what each thing does as well. I also wanted to go back here.
You'll set up schools for kids of all ages, plus...
And look at the really cool football asset behind I believe this is a college. The way they made that seem is that this is the college, and there's a really cool football field asset with a track back here. I really like that it has the track around it. Most high schools have it like that, where their track surrounds their football field. So this is pretty cool. I know this is the college, but still very cool nonetheless.
Colleges and universities. After all, education fosters...
Right here's our education info view. We have the elementary school, and you can see that they need more elementary school. They have the high school capacity, college capacity, and then university capacity, thus the 4 tiers. Tells you percent usage amounts, and we'll learn more about that in the actual Dev Diary article on who goes to what, because that is definitely a lot different in City Skylines 2. So,
after social advancements, life still might take a turn for the worse for some people. When it does, you'll want the same...
So, they're going to explain what this is, but previously in another dev diary, somebody commented, I wonder what the building is next to the police thing in the info view. This is the administration panel. So you're looking for administration building and welfare offices. She's going to explain it. I'm going to go back a little bit so you guys can catch the whole audio here on what she says it is, but this is the building that they're placing right here is a welfare office.
Life still might take a turn for the worse for some people. When it does, you'll want the safety net of a welfare office. One thing that improves everyone's well-being, the safety
they
net
do
of
talk about the welfare offices more in depth in the actual dev diary itself, so we'll obviously dive into that once we get to the dev diary. But there is 3 buildings inside of the actual administration wing. I don't really know what the other ones are yet, but I know that this is one of, if not the welfare office, and then this is clearly a one-of-one building. So again, not too sure what that building is, and I don't know what this building is yet either. I don't think that they went over it, and if they did, let me know down in the comments down below, so I am educated, and so is everyone else. So but yeah, anyways, welfare offices are added to increase everyone's well-being, and you guys will learn more about that in the actual article.
One thing that improves everyone's well-being, no matter what's going on in life, is time outdoors. You'll create parks, plazas.
Okay, all right. I'm going to pause it again. You're going to create parks, plazas. So let's dive deep into this little graphic here. So obviously we have the leisure up here in the top left. This is the leisure category. Parks, all of that stuff ends up in the leisure category. Park maintenance building, park attractions, park maintenance vehicles, leisure activities, and then they all have like the different map legends for how close it is to stuff. So down over here we have 6 different categories for buildings in this category in leisure. We have 2 different park options. I believe this is a more compact park. This one has conifers and a bench, and they're kind of separate from one another, which makes me feel like they're maybe a little bit more spaced out area, or maybe even smaller. Whereas this one's got a bunch of densely packed deciduous trees and a park bench right in front of it. So I don't know if that means it's more compact, more based in the cities, like a full-fledged like park. I'm not really sure the difference yet. we haven't been shown it. We can see what this park looks like, and it definitely looks like a normal city park. So I'm not too sure. We have what I assume to be courts. So this is probably basketball and tennis in here. So like more of your city park athletic facilities. And then over here, you have maybe the more open ones like the football field, the soccer field, maybe baseball fields in here, like the ones that we saw for the high schools. And then this, I believe, is tourism because it's got a little camera, right? And then the one next to it, I believe, is landmarks. So they're all under the same category now in cities too.
Attractions and landmarks that make people living nearby happier and healthier.
I do want to go back just really quickly.
It's time outdoors.
And if we look here, there's snapping points on the end of parks. I wonder if you can just snap any park to the next park and if they'll like connect up to one another and make one big park. I think that's super cool if they do it like that.
Plazas, attractions. As in real life, safety first is a good mantra in City Skylines too. So you'll want various
I want to show you guys something. So there's fire trucks. They're driving from somewhere and they're driving up to this forest fire. Except there's a fire and rescue building right across the street that couldn't deal with it, I guess. So they had to have the fire trucks come. I just noticed that and it made me laugh really hard when I watched it.
Fire and rescue services. Just adding a firehouse reduces the likelihood of a blaze in the neighborhood.
So these are the fire buildings that are included. So these, I believe, are disasters. I believe the stuff in this tab is for disaster response. The rectangle with the broken house, or rectangle, I'm sorry, the wrench with a broken house. And then this is the fire, just like in City Skylines 1 with the natural disasters DLC. And it does appear like everything except for the disasters are all included in City Skylines 2. So, maybe we don't get meteor strikes, for example, but I think they did confirm tornadoes and everything from the DLC, including the like emergency shelters, are all in the base game, and they confirmed that today. So just so you guys are aware about that's definitely happening in cities too. So I'm sure that's going to be a controversial topic for many of you. Anyways, we have the 4 different fire response buildings. This is the fire helicopter depot. I believe this is probably the big fire station. This is the small fire station, which looks like a old colonial style building. And then we have fire watch towers because fire spread is what appears to be always on. Maybe there's a way to toggle it on and off, but it does look like fire spread is definitely a thing. Yeah, but they confirmed it's definitely a thing.
Same with police stations.
Over here we have the police view over on the left of the jail availability, prison availability, average crime probability, number of crimes per month, crime success rate. You know, I think we've looked at this view before. And then there's 4 crime-based buildings over here. Not sure what all of them are. This looks like a CIA kind of building. Like I don't know what any of these actually are going to end up being, but I digress.
Build them and send patrols out onto the streets to cut crime. Communications is
in a previous dev diary. I said maybe they're adding internet services because there's clearly a cell phone tower right there.
A new city service and
telecom, baby. Telecom facilities, network quality, telecom coverage. So it does appear like we now also have to provide our citizens with internet service, and that is done through like cell towers, I guess. I think you can also build server hubs, as we'll see in the actual article itself. But yeah, both increase the internet coverage of your city.
City Skylines too, helping you meet more essential needs. That includes the internet. Naturally, the easier it is to connect to the web, the happier everyone will feel.
So let's go back, actually. I like how on YouTube I can actually like scrub frame by frame, but right here we have the 4 different buildings for telecom, and there's also Postal. Postal is making a return. If any of you had the Industries DLC in Cities 1, which is a great DLC, if you are looking to pick up some Cities 1 DLCs before Cities 2 comes out, definitely get Industries. It's great. But there's Postal's making a return, and so is the new edition Telecom. And there's 4 different buildings here. This is the server farm. These are both cell towers of some kind, and then there's some kind of big satellite one. And we'll read about how they actually function in the dev diary. So I don't want to talk about it too much because they talk about it a lot more in the actual diary.
Here everyone will feel, and the more profitable the city's businesses will be. Of course, everyone relies on electricity, so you want to avoid long outages. They aren't just aggravating. Blackouts will prompt people to move out and force businesses to...
So right here, we have the electricity availability view. I think we've looked at this before where you can see availability trade, but we get a full list now of all of the buildings that are in it in the actual view. I don't know what this first building is. I don't know if it's just like small, like telephone pole, like electricity lines that kind of run up, and then these are the big power ones. The way I kind of understood it from the dev diary, like the written part, is that you will have to transform it down from the production facility. So like if you're importing it from outside the city or you're producing it yourself, you will have to potentially have a transformer or this is a battery box maybe. I'm not sure. There was like a little highlight over it when they let's see if we can find it here. So this is the transform station. Transforms high voltage currents from a power plant to a low voltage currently usable by buildings. So you do have that is a transformer. That's how I understood it from the article as well. So you have to place this down and transform it down from the production power level to something that's actually usable in homes. Same thing when you import it. So I don't know what this one is. I don't know if this is just to transfer that already low voltage power and like maneuver it around your neighborhoods or what. But there is that. We also have the wind turbines, which they said is expensive. They said the wind turbines specifically stated that they are expensive. I believe there's coal, gas, geothermal, nuclear, and I can't remember the other one. I don't think they have oil anymore. I can't remember the other one, what the other one is now, but those are some of the power options, and we'll read about that in a little bit as well. So there is all that.
Businesses to pause production, putting profits at risk. Keep electricity lines humming with sustainable energy sources like wind, solar,
was another
and
option.
hydropower. Go old school with
So down over here, we've already looked at this coal power plant. They've upgraded it before, but the coal power plant, a power plant that burns coal to produce electricity, fairly inexpensive to build and maintain, but generates lots of pollution, can be upgraded with additional turbine and large coal storage, exhaust filter, and advanced turbine. So here we go. Here's all the new information about that. I think we've looked at that all before, but as you can see, there is these big power lines that are running through, and then these need to, so the power that comes from here comes from these big turbines, goes to one of those transformers, and then downvolts it to be used.
Fossil fuels like coal and gas. There's always the nuclear option too. This is the most realistic city builder ever. So you'll need to deal with a lot of stuff. We're talking
family-friendly show. Family-friendly.
Gross? Yes. Necessary? Also yes. With a wastewater treatment.
All right, so here we have the water and sewage, water availability, water trade, sewage treatment, sewage export. You can import and export every city service, as we've already kind of been over. But here is all of the water options down over here. I don't know what any of these are. I don't know if these are pumping stations. Still haven't really figured that one out yet. We have freshwater facilities, sewage facilities, water pipes, sewage pipes, groundwater deposits. They do go into depth about how groundwater deposit works. They are completely different than they were in Cities 1. You can't just place like a water tower and be like, there's water there. Just like there is everywhere where I can place one. There is specific spots, from how I understand it, that have groundwater. And that's the only places you can put like water towers and stuff to like actually pump water up. They refill over time. They do not have an infinite supply of water, and they replenish themselves. So I'm assuming from rain and stuff like that, and snow and all that other stuff related to water being produced from the sky. So I don't know how long all that takes, but they did say that you're going to want to have varied options for it. And obviously, if you pollute the groundwater, it's going to take a while to like clean it up. So,
treatment plant. You can purify sewage and
it's a water treatment plant.
Circulate water into your city's freshwater network. Or you can pump sewage into open waters and out of the network.
There you go.
Don't forget to stay on top of garbage.
So this is the ring that I believe, I don't know this for sure, but my assumption is that this is the ring that you can build those modular buildings in, just like the farm, just like the ore miner, just like the landfill right here. So you can build your landfill anywhere in this ring, and you have your little grid points that you can build on. It tells you the angles, and then here's all the different options for waste. They did confirm that there is recycling and incineration in the base game.
Garbage processing centers, landfills, and an incineration plant will stop it piling up.
And garbage processing centers? Okay, that's a new one. Yeah, so there's also garbage processing centers. So garbage processing status and landfill. So you store them in the landfill and then you have to process it somehow. So,
but don't take shortcuts. Air and water pollution can sink land values, harm the health of residents, and tarnish the city's appeal to tourists.
So surrounding air pollution is negatively affecting these buildings' occupants. Let's see if there was anything useful on this screen back here. So right here we can see average water pollution, which is 0%. And then over here we have surface water flow, water pollution, groundwater deposits. So there is the groundwater deposits, which you can see over here. There's a big groundwater deposit in this neighborhood. Over here, groundwater pollution. So this groundwater deposit clearly has been polluted by all of this treatment, or maybe they're treating it. I'm not too sure. And then ground pollution sources. So it tells you what's polluting the ground over here, which is pretty cool. So this obviously these views contain a ton of information.
Residents and tarnish the city's appeal to tourists. Ready to introduce a city service? Previously, you only had to construct a city service building. When that service needed to cover a larger...
So this is the elementary school, so let's read over some stuff while she explains it. A place of basic education for children provides the first level of education, can be upgraded to with an extension wing, a children's clinic, and a playground. Notice how it says for children. So elementary schools, only available for children. Only children can use the elementary schools, and adults cannot. And children have to go to the elementary school. So it's only for children, and the children have to use it. There's also studying in a school increases the citizens' education level. Higher education makes citizens eligible for new job opportunities as well as further education. Graduation times depend on the building's efficiency, students' well-being, the school type, and some citywide effects. Dropout rates are dependent on some factors. In addition, students may be able to decide if to quit school may decide to quit if the school is too far away, their graduation chance is low, if they are too old, or if they can earn more money without a degree over their lifetime. So there is this new factor where, like, if they are looking at education opportunities and they're like, I could go to university, I would earn more per hour, but it would take me 4 years to do it. If I start a career right now, would I earn more money before I die and retire by just going to work now? They'll usually pick that option. Now, some sims seems to be hard-coded to do different things. Like, for example, in tourism now, when you are a tourist, you will come in and you will do whatever thing is the most cost-effective and fastest for getting your tourism fix, right? But some sims still will be hard-coded to visit very specific tourist options. Like, that's the thing they wanted to go see, regardless of how quick and fast it is. They're not here just for the city, they're here for that thing. So the same thing applies here as well. So
your area or support more people, you simply constructed the same building again. Not anymore. Almost all city services can now be upgraded to scale operations and expand functionality.
This is the hospital here as well, and they do go over this in the dev diary as well, and she's kind of explaining it right now. But basically, you don't just go place when your citizens need more healthcare options, or like in order to like upgrade a neighborhood, you would make sure a clinic is like kind of within range of it, or a hospital or something. That's not how it works anymore, which is I'm still just kind of struggling to wrap my head around that. So like, you don't just place a hospital in a neighborhood because they need it. You expand the hospital, and the way the hospitals work is that they have like a plop range, and everything in that range gets that benefit effect, but they'll also go on patrol routes. Like, for example, police will go on a patrol route and they'll patrol the neighborhoods, and they can patrol out really far away and still benefit those neighborhoods that are far away as well. They won't just stay close by. So you don't need to, and they don't encourage you to build a ton of different city services unless it's really far away and you have to.
While city services...
We also have access to the budget panel, which I have been very excited. If any of you watched the Dev Insight from last week, I was very, very excited for the budget panel. And we have a new city. This is a new city. It's winter on the ground, obviously, here on the left. This is a new city. This is New Teelan. So obviously that means it was made by... Any City Skylines fans out there know it's obviously City Planner No, it's Biffa. It's obviously Biffa. So we obviously have a city made by Biffa here now as well. So Biffa obviously had early access. Biffa said a long time ago that he played the game. So this is Biffa's city. I'm sure this is maybe his second city from like a more newer playthrough of it. But here is the budget panel. Over here we have the revenue. we have a little chart, shows it in different colors so we can see what each thing is. Kind of hard to tell the difference between, maybe it's my monitor, but I'm definitely struggling to see the difference in the red side. But in the green side, I can see pretty clearly what of these two are, and then can't really tell where the other ones go. Maybe here? I'm not too sure. Anyways, so we have taxes, service fees, which we'll read about in the dev diary what service fees are. Service trade, obviously it's exporting. And then government subsidies. I don't really know how that works yet. Then down here we have expenses. Expenses are pretty much all coming from service upkeeps, but if you were to, I don't know, have some kind of subsidy, like you were paid or a city subsidy, I guess you could do something. Service trade and then loan interest are down here. And so the monthly balance is plus 200,000. So pretty cool. This is the budget panel. And then over here, we have the services panel. We didn't get a chance to look at loans, taxation, or production. These are the only ones that we get to see. But in here, you can see we can just adjust the budget, and that's pretty much the entire panel. And each one is pretty much just that.
City services make your city livable. They come at a cost. Balancing these costs and the very real needs.
So over here, it says the service budget affects service buildings efficiency. Efficiency affects graduation chance of students. Efficiency also affects citywide effects on technical university, medical center, radio telescope, geological research center, and the Large Hadron Collider. We'll learn more about what increasing the budget actually does in Cities 2, because it is different. It is different than Cities 1 in the actual dev diary.
Is the name of the game.
So now we're losing money from education, right? It's up 136%.
Subscribe to the Cities
And there we go.
Skylines 2 YouTube channel
There we
for
go.
updates and more feature highlights.
There it all is. So that is the actual dev diary itself. So we're going to move on to, or the dev diary video. We're going to move on to the actual dev diary now. And there is so much. I even highlighted it. So we could only read the stuff that matters to keep you guys as efficient as possible in your time. So let's head on over there. And before we head over to the dev diary, I just want to let you guys know that I do have a website now, and it's down below in the description. It's actually just thekodiak.com. So if you guys want to ever go over to my website, it shows you my most recent YouTube videos, my most recent TikToks, and some new merch that I have out. It's actually not new merch. I just moved merch stores over to this new merch store. So if you guys want to check that out, please feel free to. I'm going to be dropping some new stuff and having a promo code later. So check out my new website. Anyways, back to the video. This is the actual written dev diary. As you can see, I've gone through and highlighted stuff because there's a lot, and I just want to keep this video as efficient as possible for you guys. And I think we're going to start doing this in the future because there's some stuff that's redundant either from past dev diaries or that they talked about in the video that we just don't need to discuss. So let's dive into it. First off, city services can also be restricted to districts. Just a reminder for those of you who forgot, you can just restrict city services to districts. I just wanted to refresh that so that way you kind of know that. Where like you could say this hospital only services this part of town and will not go to the other districts, right? So city services. Unlike the previous game where you wanted to cover the city evenly with all different service types, the roads to the perfect city in City Skylines 2 lies in understanding the need of citizens and fulfilling them by providing suitable services as well as other activities such as places to go shopping. You can, of course, place the various services throughout the city, but doing so can be costly and only provides minor additional benefits overall. So, as I just previously stated, you don't want to just be sprinkling clinics everywhere or police stations or fire stations. That's not what'll help you. Where city services directly increased land value in the previous game, City Skylines 2 takes a different approach. City services only indirectly increase land value as they answer to the needs of citizens and companies in a city, which in turn increases their willingness to pay higher rent in the area, thus increasing their levels in land value. So there's like an extra step for land value to go up. So there might be other factors than just plopping buildings down that like provide a service that, yay, now they have all these services. So that increases the land value, right? That's not how it works anymore. So just something to keep in mind with the new game. Not all citizens have the same needs. Senior citizens have more free time and value places where they can spend that free time. Families with children, on the other hand, value areas with schools. Working age citizens seek residence in areas that have quick connections to workplaces, and companies value services that increase their efficiency and profit margin. Citizens' needs can be inspected from their household selected info panel, SIP. So that info panel when you select on a building is called an SIP, I guess, by hovering over the family's happiness icon. Similarly, companies can be inspected in their SIP, hovering over the efficiency value. So the actual efficiency percent, you can actually look at the SIP for those buildings there as well. Service types. Water pipes and electric cables run pre-built under the road. Something I just wanted to bring up. And remind you guys that you do not have to place electric cables everywhere. Now, granted, you will to get things from like the power plants, for example, or like from certain districts and power. You will still have to run them, but for most cases, you won't have to really be placing them anymore, which is very nice. City Skylines 2 features various different power plants from the green, sustainable, but quite expensive wind turbine, solar power plant, geothermal plant, and hydroelectric power plant to the raw polluting power of fossil fuels in the form of coal power plants and gas power plants. Nuclear power represents the awesome power of the atom. It's expensive, but delivers enough electricity to power up almost any kind of city. So I wonder if, because in City Skylines 1, you might have a city big enough where like a nuclear power plant doesn't cover all the power for your city still. In this game, it does seem like that nuclear power plant will just cover all the power your city could possibly need and probably export as well. Okay, so now we go on to water and sewage. City services also lose much of their effectiveness if they are deprived of fresh water. Similar to City Skylines, surface water can be pumped from the open water sources, and the water quality is affected by the pollution in that water caused by sewage sources. Conversely, groundwater works quite differently in City Skylines 2. Unlike in the game's predecessor, where the groundwater was pumped by placing water towers anywhere on the map, City Skylines 2 map features groundwater deposits full of fresh water. These reservoirs have a limited refresh rate. So that's what I was talking about earlier with like rainfall and stuff, and are very susceptible to ground pollution. So plan your water supplies accordingly. Sewage treatment is a crucial part of city management. In City Skylines 2, sewage must be either pumped out of the water network and into open waters through a sewage outlet, or treated in a wastewater treatment plant, where it is purified and pumped back into a freshwater network. The pollutants gathered from the treated wastewater become solid waste, which can be hauled away to any of the city's garbage management sites. So you basically create some kind of waste. Maybe it's the industrial waste, maybe it's the regular waste, and then they have to like haul that away at the water treatment facility. So that's pretty cool. I would suggest not dumping it into the ocean, because here in America, we also apparently have high levels of fecal matter all over our beaches. So don't do that. Let's not do that, maybe. Both electricity and water are discussed in more detail in next week's development diary, Electricity and Water. I'll link to that article down below if you're interested in what I just said. Healthcare and Deathcare are relatively straightforward services and function much like they do in the game's predecessor, which is good. Also, another side note, if you guys want to watch the video or the dev diary itself, I will link them also down below. So we really don't have to worry too much about healthcare and deathcare in City Skylines 2, because they function pretty similarly to City Skylines 1. So as long as you understand how that system works, you'll figure it out. Improve your citizens' health with the Health Research Institute on the left. So this just improves their overall health, and then provide local healthcare services with the hospital on the right. Citizens can die of old age in their healthcare if their healthcare decreases too much, if they are involved in a traffic accident, or if they are inside a building when it collapses due to it being abandoned or affected by natural disasters. So your citizens can die in a multitude of ways other than just old age, which is pretty interesting. And then they all have to be obviously taken care of. I wonder, because in City Skylines 1, you'd have a tsunami come through. A lot of those bodies would not need to be taken care of, even if they die, right? So I wonder if that's going to be the case in City Skylines 2, or if all of those bodies also need to be taken care of and taken to a crematorium or a cemetery. I'm curious to see how accurate that aspect of the simulation is. A sick citizen cannot contribute to their workforce, and thus the company's efficiency. So the company's efficiency will decrease if they are sick, which makes sense, but I don't know that that's how that worked in City Skylines 1. I don't know that that's how accurate the efficiency simulation was for factories in City Skylines 1. So something important and cool to keep in mind there. Garbage management. Every building accumulates garbage as a byproduct of human living, working, or spending free time there. Various factors contribute to garbage being accumulated, such as building and zone type, building level and size, as well as citizens' education level. Higher level buildings generate less garbage, as do citizens with higher education levels. So, all just stuff to keep in mind about garbage accumulation. That's just some newer information and refresher that I thought was maybe important right there. So, and then the rest of the buildings, they do talk about them here. I didn't have it highlighted, but basically, incineration plant, recycling center kind of work the same as they do in Cities 1. They produce electricity and materials for your factories, respectively. So, education and research. Children always go to elementary school if one is available, while teens and adults have the freedom to choose whether they go to school or switch to working. Teens can go to high school, while adults have the option to go to either college or one of the universities in the game. When choosing between schools and work, citizens calculate which is financially more beneficial for them, to start working now in a lower position and start earning money, or studying for a higher possible position, earning them more money. Some citizens also simply choose to study or work depending on their inherent interest. So there obviously some are just hard-coded to like do whatever they want to do, right? But this is definitely a different concept of how you plan your education systems in City Skylines 2. So I think that that's really interesting. Citizens have 5 levels of education. I know I said 4, but the 5th one's uneducated, so I don't really consider that one of the levels. But uneducated, poorly educated, educated, well-educated, and highly educated. Every time a citizen graduates from school, their education level increases by 1. Citizens can also fail to graduate, at which point they evaluate their options and either continue studying or get a job, because they have that factor of like, which one's going to make me more money? Should I go to school or should I go to work? So they have to reevaluate that every time they fail to graduate. And so like you could potentially, I'm guessing then, have somebody just constantly fail elementary school because children always go to elementary school. If they just keep failing elementary school when they become an adult, they might just start working. As a special effect, elementary schools give well-being bonus for families and children living close to the school. This encourages families to move into areas that have elementary schools and can, to some extent, be used to guide how certain portions of your population behave. And you'll see that in, I don't know if they discussed it in the video or if they're going to discuss it in this diary, but basically like in order to encourage different groups of people to move into different neighborhoods, you would do something like that. Adults like to live near workplaces, and seniors like to live in other places near leisure, I think. So, pretty cool way to kind of guide citizens to like move into specific areas as they reach certain ages, right? So, if they're more likely to be seniors in this neighborhood, maybe you should place the cemetery or the crematorium close by so you don't have their city services clogging up the whole city. Fires can spread quickly. This is just the confirmation right here that we have fires that will spread. Fire spread is on, baby. Fire watch towers, which are in the base game, can be placed in wilderness and watch on and lower the risk of forest fires in the surroundings. Forest fires can easily spread and light nearby buildings, so you will need the firefighting helicopter depot to send out their helicopter fleet, which can put out both forest fires and building fires. So that's pretty cool. Again, that's something that's pretty demanding in City Skylines 2 or 1 with natural disasters. So in the base game, fire and rescue services also include disaster prevention and response. This was not discussed in the video. Fire engines rush to rescue citizens trapped in collapsed buildings, while the early disaster warning system detects natural disasters early and sends out notifications to citizens to take shelter. If the city has an emergency shelter, citizens hurry there and wait out the disaster. So that's just like Natural Disasters DLC. So Natural Disasters DLC in the base game. I hope you can turn it off for those of you who don't want it, and especially if you're doing like a detail build. But it is in the base game for those of you who want it. Down over here, they are talking about police and administration. Arrested criminals are put up in jail, and some criminals are sentenced to serve prison time. Just like in the After Dark DLC, where it includes the prison in the base game, these prisoners are then transported to either a local prison or to an outside connection to serve their sentence if a local prison is not available. After serving their time, their criminal status is reset, so they're reformed, essentially, and and they return to the city. Much like in Cities 1, if you go to a prison, that status is reset. And if you just go to a jail, if you have the After Dark DLC, your sim is not reformed, and they are still likely to recommit. Prisons function also as production facilities, producing resources used by manufacturing companies in the city. How very American of them to rely on prison labor. Each building generates crime probability, which is the risk of a criminal selecting a building as a target of their criminal activity. Crime probability also affects citizens' well-being, which in turn affects their chances of becoming criminals. Other factors such as lack of electricity, insufficient water and sewage service, pollution, garbage, and lack of leisure affect citizens' well-being as well. Administration includes services such as the welfare office, city hall, and central bank. It did say in the article, and I totally forgot about it. So that middle building that was placed, but like was a one of one, was city hall, and then there's a central bank building as well. So the welfare office helps people down on their luck and boosts their welfare being if their happiness is below half. So basically, social services. The city hall has a citywide effects ranging from lowered loan interest rates and import costs to reducing crime rates and building level costs. The central bank also helps reduce loans and boosts companies' profits by lowering import costs while increasing export costs. The welfare office helps your citizens get back on their feet when life gets tough. Great. I have a soft spot in my heart for social services buildings. My mom and my aunt used to be the custodians at the one in my hometown, and my wife is a social worker. So, soft spot in my heart. There will definitely be them in my city. Airports, now we're moving on to transportation. Airports are the only transportation building that can be upgraded to also include a cargo terminal, as well as other transportation types that have separate passenger and cargo stations and terminals. So something to keep in mind in terms of transportation. They go over a little bit of transportation and stuff in this. I don't really know why they touched on it in this article. Maybe they just we'll just start into this one. But maybe because they're city services. I don't know. It felt a little out of place when I was reading about it. But Parks and Recreations fill a different role in City Skylines 2 than in previous game, where they affect the land value quite directly. However, in City Skylines 2, they don't. Parks, plazas, tourist attractions, and landmarks, or any other city service buildings, don't directly increase land value. Instead, they answer to the citizens' various needs, and if their needs are met, the citizens find the area where they live appealing, and this increases land value as citizens are willing to continue living there and paying an even higher rent. Parks provide citizens with outdoor activities to fill their leisure. Here's the tennis courts. That was that building that we saw in the last video. So something to keep in mind there. Parks and recreation buildings offer citizens options where they can spend their free time fulfilling their leisure demands, which in turn positively affects their well-being. This need for leisure can be fulfilled many different ways, such as going shopping in a commercial area, enjoying entertainment and meals in places like restaurants, and visiting various city parks, plazas, sports venues, tourist attractions, and landmarks. So your citizens will also go to all those places. Weather and time of year have an effect on citizens' choice to fulfill their leisure demands. Warm and sunny weather encourages them to spend time outdoors in the parks, while rainy and cold weather makes them choose indoor activities such as shopping. Parks and recreation buildings also have attractiveness values, which affects how attractive the city is for tourists by adding to the city's attractiveness. Tourists stay at local hotels when in the city and make decisions about visiting city attractions based on their distance from the hotel and the location's attractiveness value. Tourists might choose a more attractive park or landmark further away if the net result is faster fulfilled leisure demand, regardless of travel time and cost, which is kind of how I've explained it already. Tourists are specifically interested in visiting the various tourist attractions and landmarks. So they will specifically go to specific ones, like, oh, I really want to go visit this statue of this guy holding this ball here, sphere. They'll just are hard coded to go there, regardless of whether it's faster or easier for them. Communication is a new service category in City Skylines 2 and includes a familiar postal service as well as the new telecom service, which provides citizens and companies with interest with an internet connection. Postal service basically runs the same as it does in Cities 1, but the post offices send out postal vans to collect mail from mailboxes used by private citizens to send mail and directly from companies and city services. The mailboxes part is the reason why I highlighted this sentence, because I thought that was kind of interesting that they mentioned mailboxes. Like, is that going to be something that's just like on the sides of streets? Do we have to place them ourselves manually? Like a bus stop, for example. Something to keep in mind. I thought that was interesting because I don't know if that means they're going to their actual home's mailbox or if there's a mailbox in the neighborhood. They did not specify. The postal sorting facility sorts the mail into local and long-distance mail, which is then delivered back to the city and to outside connections, respectively. Without the local postal sorting facility, all mail sent from the city is transported to outside connections as long-distance mail, and only mail coming from outside connections can be delivered within the city. So they have to go out and in if they don't have the sorting facility. Okay. Telecommunications is all about providing citizens and companies with high-speed internet connections. Yay. Each citizen is, be it a resident in an apartment building, a worker in a company, or a student in a school, uses a small portion of the available network bandwidth, which is 1 gigabit per second. And each telecom building has a bandwidth capacity and range description of how many citizens it can service and how far its service building reaches. Good telecommunication service coverage increases citizens' well-being as it provides them with a recreation fulfilling their leisure demand. The amount of well-being a citizen gains from using the internet depends on the strength of the network signal, which is always the strongest near the source of signal and decreases as you get further away. Commercial companies benefit from telecommunications by increasing their sales as citizens are able to shop online, while industrial companies get better deals from resource providers as they are able to communicate better and have a wider reach, resulting in a lower material cost, which in turn increases the company's profit margin. So this is the server farm, and then this is the telecom tower, which we saw them place before. I don't think we saw them place the telecom tower. They placed something different. This is the telecom tower, which was, I think, the first option. So still very cool. Landscaping. They do talk about a little bit of landscaping here. I don't really know. Again, this is like one of those things where it's like, why is it in this one? But landscaping also includes options to plant trees, which have a life cycle in City Skylines 2, where they grow older and bigger as time goes on. Placing a new tree on the map using the tools in landscaping's vegetation menu plants tree saplings that eventually grow into mature trees. Similarly, if a forest fire destroys part of a forest, it will take time for the new trees to grow in place of the old burned trees. Now, if you're somebody who likes detailed builds, this is awful news because now you can only place saplings, not full-grown trees. If you are somebody who doesn't necessarily play detailed builds and like watching your cities kind of grow and develop, this is great news. This is a very realistic element to tree growth, which is why we've been seeing dead trees and forests on certain maps. So I think it's a cool feature. I hope that mods maybe make it so you can just place full-size trees though, but I digress. Still kind of cool. I think it's just very weird that some of the stuff was included. Service upgrades. As a feature in City Skylines 2 is the city service upgrade system. This is going to be a lot of reading, so buckle up. In the previous game, city services were one and done buildings. You placed the building, and if the city needed more of the service type, you placed another building. In City Skylines 2, each service building, with a few exceptions, is upgradable, expanding its options to serve some more citizens and answer different kinds of needs. Upgrades can add new functionality or expand the existing functionality of a service building. For example, you can place an ambulance depot or an extension wing to the medical center to add more ambulances and patient capacity. Similarly, placing an extension wing to an elementary school increases its student capacity, while placing the children's clinic or playground improves students' health and well-being, respectively. Both adding new effects to the elementary school. A power plant can have an additional turbine built, increasing electricity output, and exhaust filters added to decrease the amount of air pollution created by the power plant, or additional storage space for the storage fuel. Upgrades to come in many different forms, and improved service buildings Upgrades come in many different forms and improve service buildings in many different ways. It is worth noting that adding upgrades costs money, and in most cases, the upgrades also add to the building's upkeep cost. It may not always be beneficial to build all the upgrades for a building, but instead to consider the needs of the city and its citizens. Is the exhaust filter necessary for that power plant, which is already downwind from the city, and the air pollution spreads away from residential areas? Maybe not. But if the power plant is located near a city center and was built in the early days of the city, way, the exhaust filter might be exactly what the plant needs. It can continue to operate closer to the city without causing too much harm with its air pollution. If the school is already full of students, but more eligible citizens are in the city, it's better to upgrade the school with additional student capacity or build an entirely new school in an additional part of the city. This depends on whether the students are located, providing them are nearby the facilities and cuts travel times and contributes less to traffic congestion. So obviously those are just a lot of tips. That was a lot of stuff where there's going to be more reading here too. The middle part of this is very dense with new information. So service upgrades are divided into 3 categories: operational, extension, and sub-buildings. Operational upgrades are functional and statistical upgrades or changes to the buildings without changing its looks. These can be bandwidth increases to the radio mast, exhaust filters installed on the coal power plants, or dispatch center built inside the taxi depot. Extensions are visible upgrades connected directly to the main building, usually increasing the building's capacity for vehicles, output range, or the number of citizens being serviced. These include, among other things, extension wing for medical facilities and schools, providing more patients and student capacity, respectively, garages for various services, such as increasing the size of the service fleet, and additional turbines for power plants, increasing their electricity output and fuel consumption. Extensions have fixed positions on the building lot and fit inside of an extension lot size. So when we saw them build the elementary school, it just built out the edges. We didn't get to pick where it went. Then there's sub buildings, and I think these ones are the modular ones where you can place wherever. Are separate buildings attached to the service building's existing lot. They can increase, for example, fuel storage capacity of power plants or add new functionality to a building, such as an aforementioned children's clinic and playground upgrade for the elementary school. Sub-buildings naturally require additional space to be built, so it's important to take into consideration the placement of the service building and make sure that there's enough free space around them for those potential sub-buildings added in the future. So when you build one of these buildings, just make sure it's in kind of like its own space so you can upgrade it. This is the big fire station that they had. Not really any really big need to go on full screen for this guy. So again, more reading, but it's a lot of information. All right, next is going to be all about service coverage. In City Skylines 2, service buildings have both passive coverage effect and simulated effects. While the passive effect is local to the area surrounding the building, the simulated effect can reach further into the city through patrolling vehicles or citizens visiting that service building, and often the two work in tandem. As an example, managing the city's crime rate isn't about placing a police station on every street corner. Instead, the police station's presence decreases the amount of accumulated crime in its neighborhood as its passive coverage effect, while the patrolling vehicles extend that reach all over the city as a simulated effect. Passive service coverage effect. Many of the city services have passive effects that spread to the surrounding roads along with service buildings, and they include healthcare facility, health bonus, education in elementary schools, well-being for families with children, fire department facilities, decreased fire hazard, police department facilities, decreased crime accumulation, parks and recreation buildings, well-being bonus, welfare office, well-being bonus for citizens whose happiness is low. So the way I kind of understand this is that once those patrols kind of go out and like the police, for example, they have that effect, but it's simulated because it'll go away, right? It's not like a real adjacency bonus, whereas like crime is literally just going to go down in those areas that are close by without patrols. The strength of the passive effect depends on 3 factors: range, capacity, and magnitude. Range is the maximum distance in meters along the road where the service building still provides its passive service coverage effect. Capacity is the rough estimate of how many people in the city service building's passive effect range reaches as it travels along the road. However, the reach of the effect can vary greatly depending on how many people live in its vicinity. If there is only low-density housing, the reach can be farther. But if the area is densely populated with medium or high-density housing, the reach can be quite short as it is used up faster, spreading through the apartment buildings. Magnitude is the maximum effect gained from the passive service coverage. It's at its full effect within most of its range, but the effect fades away quickly at the edge. This is the area where, example, your citizens will only have a few bars on their cell phones, and their internet may be unreliable, making some overlap of passive service coverage worth it if you are aiming for the best coverage. So, I definitely think that building those cell phone towers is going to be a pain in the butt. I definitely think so. Service efficiency. In the case of city services, efficiency affects the building's capacity, processing speed, or output, depending on whichever value or values are the most relevant for your city's services. And it may also have an effect on the range of passive service coverage effects and city-wide effects of certain service buildings. Below are the functions affected by efficiency for each service type. Roads, number of available road maintenance vehicles. Electricity is by electricity output level. Water and sewage, water output level. Sewage processing speed. Healthcare and death care, treatment bonus, processing speed of the deceased, and number of available ambulances and hearses. Garbage management, garbage processing speed, number of available garbage trucks. Education and research, graduation bonus. Fire and rescue is the number of available fire engines. Police and administration is the number of available police cars. Transportation, the number of available transportation vehicles. Parks and recreations, attractiveness value, number of park maintenance vehicles. And communications is the number of post vehicles and network range and capacity, I would assume, of the cell tower. Calculating efficiency. In here it says water and electricity are the basic... Oh, that just moved. Okay, water... this article's moving around. Water and electricity are the basic needs for buildings to function, and lacking either one of them incurs a large efficiency penalty, while lacking both leads to buildings becoming inoperative. Employees are an important factor when it comes to building efficiency, and having the right amount of employees who are happy, healthy, and have the right education levels ensure that the buildings function as smoothly as possible. As a reminder, highly educated employees are able to fill job positions requiring lower level educations, but it is impossible for lower educated employee to fill the higher level education level position. So things to keep in mind. Lastly, the city service budget can be used to affect the efficiency of all buildings within a service category. Perhaps your city is still small and doesn't require the full force of the service to function, in which it's lowering its budget can be useful, as it lowers the efficiency, decreasing the upkeep costs, and cuts down on the service vehicles or other functionality. Or maybe your city is growing rapidly, but you're not ready to invest in additional service buildings yet. In that case, increasing the service budget will increase the efficiency of all the service buildings, allowing them to service more citizens. You can do the same thing in Cities 1. Makes total sense. Next is service fees, which was something that we saw in the budget panel. And right here, you can actually see that you can increase and decrease them, which was something we couldn't see previously. So that's now been added to this panel here. This panel also includes service imports and export information, as well as fees collected from your city services that have them. Yes, that's right. Some services collect fees from citizens. These include roads, electricity, water and sewage, healthcare, garbage management, education, and transportation services. Electricity and water fees are paid by citizens and companies alike, and the fees can be adjusted in the economy panel, as we can see down here. Lowering the fees increases citizen happiness and the company's profitability, but it also increases the usage of water and electricity. Increasing the fee decreases citizen happiness and company profitability, but it also decreases the usage of water and electricity. Using these fees on their own or in addition to district policies, you can encourage citizens to conserve electricity, decreasing their demand in the city. Citizens also pay a fee for healthcare services when they visit a medical facility for treatment, while garbage fees are paid when garbage trucks collect garbage from households and companies. Additionally, citizens pay for education, with school types having its own, which each school type having its own service fee, the cheapest being the elementary school and the most expensive being the university. So I bet you could probably independently change those. As well, I'm assuming this function like the taxes, I guess, for the building, basically, but you pay them when you use it. You can set up the roadside parking fees for districts, which, again, there is roadside parking fees now that you can do, so that way less people maybe park on the side of the street or whatever, or you can just make money from it. For districts and various parking lots and parking halls, including road service. You can also increase the parking costs at like specific buildings. For example, the harbors, like when you take a ferry or something like that, you can increase the cost for that as well. Similarly, each passenger transportation's ticket fee can be adjusted individually, which can encourage or discourage citizens to use certain methods of transportation as the cost is considered when they are making pathfinding decisions. So that's another way that you can say, like, hey, maybe I don't want teenagers using this because there's like a crap load of them, and I want, like, people can't get to their jobs now, right? You could, in theory, turn that down. Service trade. Electricity, water, and sewage services can all be imported and exported. Electricity is transferred from outside connection through power lines and into a transformer station, or vice versa. So that's just a reminder about the transformer. You do have to downvolt your power. If the city does not have any medical facilities, citizens will travel to outside connections to get treated. If they are too sick or injured to travel, an ambulance is sent from the outside connection to pick them up. Once they are treated, they will travel back into the city. Similarly, if the city lacks proper death care facilities, hearses arrive from outside connections to pick up the deceased and transport them out of the city, which takes a lot longer, so that's something to keep in mind. Police and fire services can also be imported, although the response times are slow and they arrive at the crime scenes and emergencies from outside connections. All of the imported services lack the passive service coverage effects from their respective service buildings, which can otherwise decrease crime and fire hazards, respectively. Traveling outside of the city for education may also encourage them to actually move out of the city for good. Therefore, it is important to offer citizens the education options they need. Likewise, you can also export education and attract students from outside connections who will study in the city's colleges and universities. These students will move into the city and study in the process. They also become full-fledged citizens once they find a home. So this is pretty big. I think that's pretty big. So education is a very important city service to make sure that you have, because it will literally cause people to leave your city. They will just leave. Now, you could provide them other things, but if they do not have the education, they will just go. So this is a very important. Education is very, very, very important in City Skylines 2. Arguably one of the most important city services, just based on that factor, because I bet you this will scale out of control if you don't get a grasp on it. Districts and policies. Creating a district is quite straightforward with the district tool, which we've looked at before, but I just wanted a cool refresher of it, where you basically just do little dots now instead of the brush tool. It doesn't look like you can curve it, and we'll read this, but it doesn't look like you can curve the edges, so we've completely lost any kind of rounding, which sucks, but on the bright side, it's a lot more detailed, so I'll take that as a plus. You define an area by placing corner nodes. Once you close the area, the district is created. This method is faster and more precise than the game's predecessor, and the districts can be adjusted after creating by moving the nodes or adding nodes to the edges. It's named automatically, but you are able to rename it after its creation to suit your city. So, pretty cool, as we know from previous dev diaries and dev insights that was going to be the case. All right, now we get into some stuff that's really cool that was not in the video, and I don't know why. It is important to note that even though service buildings is assigned to multiple districts, its passive service coverage effect still applies only to its neighborhood and only to simulated service effects, i.e. its vehicles travel to all of the assigned districts. So that's just like ambulances will only go to that district, right? But if somebody is nearby, they will use that hospital, even if they're outside the district or whatever, if they can get there themselves. District policies, which we haven't talked about really policies at all yet, bring more city planning control over specific districts. Installing speed bumps slows down traffic, decreases noise pollution, and the likelihood of traffic accidents, while setting up gated communities deny access to the district from all outside connections except for the delivery trucks and service vehicles. So I actually have an image of this screenshot right here. We have all of the policies. These are all of the district-specific policies. There is only 6. There is also some citywide ones, which we'll take a look at in a second, just so you guys aren't freaking out that there's only 6. But there's only 6 in the base game. Like recycling right here. Citizens in the area are encouraged to recycle. This reduces the amount of resources and but decrease free time. So people will get less free time, but they'll be using that free time creating less waste. So, but there's a combustion engine ban, energy consumption awareness, gated community, heavy traffic ban, recycling, and roadside parking fees, and you can adjust that there. And then speed bumps. I'm sorry, this looks like there's 7, not 6. Residents right here, number of pets. Those of you guys watched the last Dev Insight, pets might play a bigger role maybe. than we think they do, but pets are right here. It tells you the local services in this district and a bunch of other stuff. So this is the district panel, which I don't think we've really seen yet. So wanted to definitely take a look at that. And back over here, we also have city policies are different from district policies and have city-wide effects, such as removing the speed limits from highways or installing air filters on manufacturing companies in the industrial zones to limit air pollution. Some policies have a cost or negative consequence linked with them, while others are more neutral. Taking our example of highways with no speed limits, this policy can make traffic flow faster, but it's also increasing the likelihood of traffic accidents. Installing air filters decreases the air pollution, but those filters need cleaning every now and then and increase the amount of garbage these factories produce. So don't worry, I also have that one pulled up. Advanced pollution management, city promotion. I don't know if that's just like an advertisement campaign, I'm guessing, because that looks like a tourist. High-speed highways, pre-release programs, and tax minimum fare. Pre-release program. Prisoners are enrolled in education programs before they release from prison. This helps them integrate back into society and reduces the likelihood of committing crimes again. I wish there was more of a crime-related DLC that like did more of this stuff in City Skylines 1, because I think this stuff's really cool, and I would really like a more in-depth crime like situation going on. So I love this. I love that they have this as even an option. But there's also demand over here, so you can see all your demands maybe, and you have a bigger breakdown, because we haven't really taken a look at whatever this view is, the city information view. We haven't really taken a look at that yet, so this is really interesting. Also, we got a fun little view down here, the radio station thing. I haven't taken a look at this yet. I don't know if this has showed up in any other dev diary or dev insights, but we can kind of see there's a little radio going on right here. So pretty cool. Anyways, let's go back over to the dev diary itself. City Skylines will include 7 different district policies and 5 city policies, providing different ways to customize your city. District policies are applied by selecting the district and choosing the policies you want to apply, while the city policies can be found in the city information panel. And that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching today. I appreciate it. This dev diary has been chock full. Dude, this was a lot. I would be surprised if this video is under an hour. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. If I missed something, let me know. I might have included it in a previous dev diary and just didn't feel like talking about it today because this video is so long. I hope you guys liked the highlights so we could get through the actual dev diary itself quicker. And I hope it made more sense. So let me know if you guys like that as well. And I will catch you guys on Thursday for the developer insight. Have a good one. Deuces, folks.